So I don't know about you, but I think Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull absolutely sucked. In comparison to the original trilogy of films that spanned the 80s, there's simply no comparison. Raiders of the Lost Ark is the perfect movie. It is flawless in its story, its script, its acting, its directing, its pacing, editing, score. George Lucas provided the story, offering to his friend Steven Spielberg when the latter was denied the chance to direct a James Bond film. Harrison Ford was not the first choice for the title character, but by minute 5 in the movie, he was obvious to all to be the best choice for the role, bringing his one-of-a-kind blend of suave demeanor and apathetic personality. Spielberg's contribution was not only directing the movie during the height of his creative powers, but also doing so with a key idea. Every 10 minutes is an action scene. If you track the movie, Raiders of the Lost Ark, you'll see that it's paced to resemble the old cliffhanger serials that Lucas and Spielberg grew up watching. Every 10 minutes is a death-teasing action scene. The follow-up might not be the most beloved of the bunch, but its technical and creative risks make the Temple of Doom a worthy addition to the library. The Last Crusade was the trilogy closer and brought in James Bond himself, Sean Connery, to play Indiana's dad. It also returned the series to its Nazi roots and Bible artifact hunting origins, and ended with those heroes literally riding off into the sunset having found the Holy Grail. That's it. How do you top that? Those are the two things that you say are the most cliched things possible. The search for the Holy Grail and the sunset ride-off. They did both. It was done. It was beautiful. It was complete. There was no need for more. And then they went and made part 4. The Kingdom of the Crystal Skull was such a colossal waste of time and energy, not only for those making it, but for us who had to watch it too. It should have turned everyone involved off from trying to make another one. If anything, they should have spent their time scrubbing it from history, not following up on it. On the other hand, you can imagine Lucas and Spielberg and Ford perhaps thinking that they need a do-over to make up for the mistakes of Part 4. But then again, have Lucas and Spielberg ever even hinted that they disliked the fourth? The worst thing that could happen would then be deciding A, Indy 4 was great, and B, let's do another one and not change a thing. Well, it's coming next summer. So what are we looking at here? What options are on the table? Here are 5 things that I think you can do with Indiana Jones 5. They may be risky, some of them may be bad ideas, some of them may be good ideas, but here are the ideas. Idea number 1, no Harrison Ford. That's a risky idea, and it's one that Disney will probably want to consider sooner or later. On the one hand, the temptation is to draw a line of connection between Harrison Ford and Indiana Jones to Harrison Ford and Han Solo. Look at the failure of the non-Ford Solo movie, and Disney may conclude recasting is a bad idea. I understand the thought process, but on the other hand, Indiana Jones has been portrayed by several different actors over the years. Even in this very film series, River Phoenix played the young Indiana Jones in the opening of The Last Crusade. 2 more actors play the role in the TV series, The Young Indiana Jones Chronicles. So there's a precedent, in other words. And you would future-proof the series and give the character a chance to do things that an almost 80-year-old actor cannot do. That being said, it's hard to imagine an indie movie that doesn't feature Ford passing the proverbial hat in some way. So, idea 2, you can cameo Ford. My thought process is threefold. First, there's still money to be made with the name and the brand Indiana Jones. There's no sense in creating a character from scratch when the one Disney has is already good. Second, Harrison Ford is getting too old to play the part. His age is forcing the character to move into decades well outside his peak. Indy 4 was set in 1957. Indy 5 will presumably be set at the end of the 60s. I know that sounds crazy, but prepare yourself. Next year will mark 13 years after Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Assuming they progress the timeline to match Ford's age like they did last time, Indy 5 will have to be set either in 1969 or 1970. Yikes. Third, there's a plethora of potential Indiana Jones adventures that could have happened between the years of 1930 and 1950. Obviously, a new actor would have to be cast in the role of such period adventures, so why not bring Ford back to be the narrative anchor of those old tales? Have him recollect the adventures in his twilight years, bookending the movie that has his younger adventures in between. It's a similar tactic that was done in the Young Indiana Jones show, and it could work as part of an ongoing film series. It gives Ford a chance to make an appearance as Indy and make some easy money, which he always loves doing, and gives the younger actor a chance to do the heavy lifting. On the other hand, that would require Spielberg and Lucas to admit that things needed to change from the way things were done last time, which takes us to idea 3. You could just do all Ford. This is a risky idea because you're essentially crossing your fingers and hoping that A, Lucas has a better idea than let's do a B movie with Martians and flying saucers, but also let's do El Dorado, and B, that Spielberg has a little bit of pride left to tell Lucas no on some of his sillier ideas. You also have to hope that C, John Kasdan, the son of Raiders writer Lawrence Kasdan, could pen a better script based on whatever idea George has than what David Koepp did in 2005. And also, in case you're wondering, Spielberg has said he would not return to the franchise without Lucas having input in the story. The franchise was always George's story, Spielberg's direction, and Ford's star power. That's what made for such an incredible 1980s series, because those three were great in the 1980s. In the 1980s, I say. 40 years ago. Of course, there's also Ford, who is now pushing 80, as opposed to being just 65. You're also asking the audience to suspend their disbelief that an 80-year-old could punch and be punched as often as Indiana Jones is supposed to be. I don't know, it seems like it's asking too much of the audience, especially considering that none of those three principal players are as good today as they were in 2008, and in 2008, Indiana Jones 4 was already a disaster. The biggest challenge to doing a movie that just pretends that Harrison Ford isn't too old for this is filming Harrison Ford in a way that hides the fact that he's clearly too old for this. And the most obvious way to do that would be to do Idea 5, which is CG Ford. And this is a terrible idea. Do not de-age Harrison Ford. It might work in a short flashback scene, but you cannot do a whole movie with it. You cannot Jar Jar Binks him. It only sort of worked with Tarkin in Rogue One, which was more about CG creating a dead actor, but the same principle. Because a lot of the casual fans didn't know who Peter Cushing was, and so they didn't have a preconceived notion that it was fake. When you tell someone that CG Tarkin isn't real, almost everyone immediately starts noticing the little imperfections, or the too perfect parts that don't seem real. You put Harrison Ford on the screen and you de-age him to make him look 40 or 50, and everyone in the theater is going to say, "Ha ha, look what they had to do to Ford, how sad." So don't do that, George. Please, Stephen, tell him no. Someone stop him before it's too late, because now that I say this, that's clearly what they're going to do.